biggest pain points are multifaceted. Right? There are pain points.
My guest is Amanpreet Singh. He is Senior Director of Strategy and Operations with Motorola. Aman, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Could you tell me a little bit about your background in supply chain, what types of companies you've worked for, and where you got your start?
Right. I got my bachelor's in India. I went to Indian Institute of Technology at Roorkee, and I did my industrial engineering there. As soon as I was done in '94, I joined a manufacturing company. It was called Shriram Pistons. That's where I got my start and my base, I would say my foundations in engineering, in manufacturing, in supply chain. I was looking after an expansion project. India at that time was growing. So the company was going through a major expansion in their business, in their factories. So I was the project manager there, so I got to get various glimpses of the business with vendors, with inventory, and all that good stuff.
Was it Motorola even back then? Or was it a different company?
It was a different company. Its name was Shriram Pistons. Mm-hmm. It was in the automotive sector. And I was working there for 2 years, and I decided to get my MBA. So I came to the United States in '96, got my MBA from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. It was in operations and marketing. And then I joined a company called I2 Technologies, which was in supply chain, software company. I worked in product management, I worked in consulting, I worked in pre-sales, and then I worked in strategic consulting for the better part of my life there. Mm-hmm. After that, I joined PRTM, where I worked in the high-tech industry, and now I'm with Motorola, and I run operations for our companion products.
So you've had a really good perspective of multiple industries. You've been on the vendor side, you've been on the company shipper side. Mm-hmm. So you've seen a lot in supply chain over these years. What in your experience have been, or are now, the biggest pain points that supply chains are facing today?
The biggest pain points are multifaceted, right? There are pain points with respect to the demand and the customer side of the equation. There are pain points with respect to your internal processes within a particular company, wherever you are, right? And there are pain points with respect to your ecosystem with your suppliers and your tier 2, tier 3, tier N suppliers. So that's all multifaceted, the way we are looking at it right now. From a customer standpoint, from a product standpoint, our life cycles, especially in the high-tech industry, they are getting shorter and shorter. So product transitions and product end of life, they become very challenging for us, especially to manage inventory and excess and obsolescence. When the products either take off, it's a problem for supply chain. If they do not take off and are a dog, it's a very big problem for supply chain either way.
So forecasting becomes a tremendous problem.
Forecasting.
Access to point of sale becomes a tremendous problem. Variability or variation of product. So many more different products out there than we used to see before, right?
Right. So I'll give you a major trend that has happened in the past. So 5 years ago, 7 years ago, getting sell-through, sell-out information from retailers, from carriers was a big pain point. That is not a major pain point anymore. We are able to get data on a daily basis. That is not an issue. The issue is still what the end user is going to buy. Use that data, so we're able to get all that analytics with us now. But what is really become a big unknown is the price moves that you need to make, or what the competitor is going to do to you, or what's the new trend that's really going to hit with the customer. And to really forecast that and come up with a good forecast and drive supply chain based upon that is always challenging. The second challenge is that you're always evolving. Within your company, you're always evolving. You're coming up with new products, new ideas. You need to align the entire organization, finance, marketing, your sales, your product, and your supply chain. All of them need to really walk in lockstep motion towards one single goal, towards common objectives, common metrics, right? How do you do that? So that's an internal challenge for companies these days, whatever I've seen from being in consulting, in strategy, in my past. It's still a challenge. The challenge, to expand that, the challenge has become very enhanced because you are outsourcing a lot of your stuff now. So like, for example, Apple has a completely outsourced supply chain. Many other companies are outsourcing production, right? So how do you work in that ecosystem? How do you really collaborate with your partners, with your suppliers? When you transmit data, how much trust you have with what the other partner is going to do for you, for your business, for your supply chain? That is an ever-evolving challenge in today's world.
So what's the answer? Is it people, is it process, or is it technology?
It's a combination of all three. It's people, so people need to have good relationships, need to trust each other. The processes need to be very well defined. The processes need to mature, and they need to evolve. Because of the nature of the business, the way things are really evolving, the entire globe is getting shrunk. All the trades that need to happen with respect to whatever is happening in the global economy, right? All that comes into picture when we are really working a global supply chain. So people need to understand all the challenges, all the constraints that are going to come up, proactively work with them, and evolve processes that way, right? The other thing is, from a technology standpoint, we need to be completely transparent with respect to data. The supplier needs to be transparent with the data that they share with us, with the customers, with we as their customers, or we need to be able to share data with them based upon what we need to be able to forecast or what we forecast, right? And they need to be able to share the data that they get from the suppliers, their suppliers, in terms of the commits that they're getting, so that we can either pass the good news or bad news to our customers faster.
But how do you make data transparent? I mean, you have these individual departments, and they're kind of hoarding their data, in effect. They're interpreting it in their own ways, based on their own incentives and their own worlds, and maybe the data is not crossing boundaries quite as well as it needed to. Maybe each department thinks that its data is the only correct data. I'm just wondering, you say you need to make data transparent, but the question is how?
Again, that goes back to the fact that data is ever-changing, right? It's dynamic data. Like you're saying, how do you make, what's the single most truth of the data? That comes from the technology aspect of things. Where do you store that data? What's your strategy to store that data? And what's your strategy to make it visible to other people? Are you really going to be able to share it? Are you willing to share it? That's a bigger question, and that comes from trust.
Yeah.
And the entire ecosystem needs to work like that, where you need to be able to build that trust, where you need to be able to build respect with your suppliers and gain respect of the suppliers. It's only then we will be able to really make those two ends meet from a data perspective.
So Aman, what do you see out there based on what you see companies doing today? Have they moved from needs to, which you've told us what companies need to do, to actually doing it?
I would say from a scale of 1 to 5, if 3 or 4 years ago we were at, say, 1.5 or 2, we have moved to around 3 to 3.5 in today's world, especially in high tech. Maybe in other sectors we are still not as mature yet, but where we really need to move to is whenever there is an issue, say in production, we need to know immediately. Even a day's lag of not knowing that information can be catastrophic for us, right? So what will be nirvana is whenever something happens, you get that information as quickly as possible so that you can take corrective actions against that, right? And not wait. Today, I would say companies still wait because escalation is a big problem. And the word escalation means different things to different people, and people are scared, right? So we need to be able to get the bad news out there as quickly as possible so that the corrective actions can be taken. Secondly, if there is going to be a problem in the supply chain, or if there is a problem in supply chain, I need to be able to communicate that same information to my customers so that they can prepare. Okay, I'm not going to get this particular supply. What do I need to do so that my customer, when they walk into my store, they not go empty-handed. They get the product that they want. The whole objective is going to be revolving around how do I meet the best customer service? How do I make sure that I do not have any lost sales? And that bodes well for the retailer, for the carrier, for the customer, for the supplier and the manufacturer, everybody. It's the only single thing that drives a complete business.
Okay, so latency is the enemy.
Correct.
Great. Aman, thank you so much for helping to sketch out some of these pain points and showing us a path toward how they might be alleviated. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I've been speaking with Aman Singh of Motorola. Thank you very much for watching.